and welcome to the movement. My name is Nicola Corzine, and I'm the Executive Director of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. We are so delighted to have everyone joining us today. Now, for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potential and grow. And of course, that all starts with the art and the commitment of mentorship. Now, none of what we're doing today would be possible without the amazing support from our partners in this movement. We've worked closely with Ravi Gundlapalli and his team at MentorCloud in activating the platform we'll be using to help you join the movement and schedule free mentoring sessions with our businesses across the world. We're forever grateful for the support we've received from organizations including Hello Alice, Techstars, A Seat at the Table, Vets in Tech, the Association of Military Spouse Entrepreneurs, the Association of Women's Business Centers, City Light, Sister Circle Black Women in Tech, ESO Ventures, and Act One Group. And if you're curious around how you can get your organization or company involved, please reach out and let us know, as it's going to take a village to make 1 million hours of mentorship available in the next 12 months. The Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center also wants to take a moment to thank our amazing annual sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, NZTE, and Microsoft for Startups. We're truly humbled by their contributions. Now, without any further delay, it is my absolute pleasure to get us started today in hearing and learning about amazing mentorship from the lives and the people that have lived it and realize how inspirational it truly is. To get started in this, we are going to be going ahead and introducing Marcus Bullock. Marcus is the founder and CEO of Flickshop. Following his 2004 release from prison, Marcus launched a construction business that grew to employ other returning citizens. Now, Flickshop followed shortly after. It's a software company that builds tools to help incarcerated people stay connected to their families and build community. The Flickshop mobile app enables families and nonprofit organizations to send personalized postcards to any person in any cell in the United States, all with the mission of using social connections to decrease recidivism. Forbes calls this the app and Instagram for prisons. So thank you, Marcus, and over to you.
Good morning, you all. Thank you guys. Thank you so much, Nicole, for that incredible introduction. I'm so grateful to be able to be here. All of you guys, again, I just want to make sure, let me make sure that you guys can see me. You guys are able to see me clearly? I want to make sure the camera's on clearly. So we cannot see.
You're looking good, Marcus. Everything looks great from my side.
Oh, awesome. As long as you guys can hear me, awesome. Good morning again. My name is Marcus Bullock, and I am the CEO and founder of the mobile app Flickshop. We build the technology that helps families stay connected to their incarcerated loved ones. Now, there's no internet in prisons, which also means that there's no social media and definitely no texting in any of these facilities as well. And with over 2.3 million people incarcerated in the US, families around the country are losing connections with their loved ones by the boatloads. And interestingly enough, this year's pandemic has made it even harder, which makes me so grateful to help contribute a solution to our families. Our mobile app allows our users the ability to take a picture, add some quick text, press send, and for 99 cents, we print and ship that tangible postcard to any person in any cell, anywhere in the US. We've connected over 170,000 families across the country and have shipped over 600,000 postcards into jails, prisons, juvenile facilities, immigration facilities all around the country. You see, in prison, mail means everything. Hearing your name called at the 4 p.m. count for mail is like hitting the lottery. Now, how do I know? Well, like the introduction says, when I was a 15 years old kid, I started my sophomore year of high school, and a friend of mine and I carjacked a man in a shopping mall parking lot and was arrested for the crime the very next day. It was a shocking moment for my entire family. In fact, when I was arrested, I couldn't care less about the police or the prosecutors. I didn't want to get in trouble with my mom. See, I grew up in Washington, D.C. for half my childhood before moving to a suburb of D.C. in Prince George's County, Maryland, where I went to middle school. My mom couldn't afford much in those days, but one thing it seemed as though she could always afford were tons of books. Instead of being able to go outside and play with my friends, my mom emphasized how she'd rather have my sister and I sit in the house and read rather than be around the crime and the violence, as she called it, that awaited us on the street corners where my friends hung out. I was known as the smart kid that was in the Benjamin Banneker Math Club in my high school and a consistent oratorical contest winner in Prince George's County. But that same smart kid now stood before a judge with my mom and my sister standing just a few feet behind me as they listened to me get sentenced to 8 years in adult maximum security prisons. Now, at first, I thought that I was coming home in a week or two. I never thought that I would have to serve all 8 years of that prison sentence. I knew a lot of people from my neighborhood that went to prison. They all seemed to come straight home, and they had much more heinous crimes, in my opinion. So I lived in denial about my sentence for the first 2 years. Nope, not me. Wasn't me. Not me in a cell. I'm a kid. I'm only 15. I'm only 16 years old. My cell partner was 10 years older than me, and he had life plus 43 years. So that was my life. I remember walking around the prison rec yard with my friend Danny B when I asked him, "How long have you been in here?" And he looked at me with a straight face and said he had served 31 years. My heart dropped down to my toes. My palms instantly got sweaty, and they hit me like a ton of bricks. If they made him serve 31, they would definitely make me serve all 8 of my years. I instantly became depressed. Our lives immediately changed, my mom and I, and my dreams of graduating high school and being a basketball player at Duke University were replaced with just wanting the metal doors to stop being slammed night after night. I just knew that my life was over, and I tried to push my mom away because I didn't want her to become subject to the 4-hour drives for the 1-hour visits. That intrusive body cavity search that she would have to always endure. I didn't want her to go through that. And I definitely didn't want her to continue to pay $18 just to talk to me on the phone for 15 minutes. But of course, as you guys probably know, you ain't gonna stop a mother's love. So my mom comes bursting through the prison visiting room talking about, "You have lost your mind if you think that I'm giving you away, your brain away, your mind away to prison culture." My mother promised me that she would write me a letter or send me a photo every day for the remaining 6 years of my sentence to help me understand that there was still life after prison. She just started her master's degree program, and she would send me pictures of burgers she would eat at dinner with a letter promising me that I'd enjoy a fat, juicy burger when I came home, or a picture of something on campus assuring me that I could still be successful after prison. Well, my mom's pictures and letters kept me going and kept me connected to the outside world. I still don't know if I believed her when she would say all that stuff about I could be whatever I wanted to be. There were rules to success in my mind, and I'm sure that one of them says that people like me don't climb those same heights that I once dreamt about. But one day, while I had my headphones on and sitting on my bunk, I turned on the radio and I started listening to this rapper that everybody on the rec yard said was hot. It was the first time that I'd ever heard someone mention fiscal year revenue in Japanese yen in a song. The artist continued to flex his mental aptitude by continuing to use words that illustrated just how brilliant he was, but reminded me in every other verse that his intellect came as a result of living in a neighborhood like the one I grew up in. That year was 1998, and that rapper was Jay-Z. It was that moment that I realized that there was a much bigger world out there that made way for young Black entrepreneurs to create massive success, stay just as authentic and cool as my best friends that I looked up to from my corners, and do it all now legally as a result of a business that could grow into something larger than my wildest dreams. Boom. I had a new dream to now be an entrepreneur while I set no sales and spend Japan yen at 10 major events, just like this one I'm in today. I follow my dreams to run wild and create visuals of myself in rooms. Those rooms would be filled with certain people, and all those people wanted to see me win. I held a conversation with those people in my dreams, and they listened to me, and they genuinely laughed at my jokes. I dreamed of adding value to their lives because something I was doing or I could do for them. And then I snapped out of that dream and asked myself while I was sitting in that bunk in those prison cells for years and years on end, who were those people? What do they do for a living? How can I learn from them? I needed to learn from them. Now, I was released in 2004, and when my mom and sister came to pick me up, it felt so surreal. I just served an 8-year sentence and now had the shot to live my life on my terms. I could remember those dreams and I could go chase them. I could leverage the mental toughness that I built while living in those cells to create something more meaningful in the world. Now, today, that creation looks like Flickshop, where I'm able to connect families just the way that my mom connected to me. I can't believe that this is my new life. And I'm the CEO of one of the most impactful apps inside of your app store. And it was birthed from an idea that came from my mom. Now, on this amazing Mentor Day, I hope that we all remember to give ourselves permission to grow into something bigger than your own ideas. And when you can't, look for someone that's done it well, that's somewhere around you. Now, my mentor got in my ears from a set of headphones tucked away in a prison cell. But I ask you now, where will your next mentor come from? Thank you guys so much for inviting me today. As you can imagine, I'm living on a cloud right now and living beyond my wildest dreams. Super grateful.
Marcus, that was beyond inspirational. And I think it's a beautiful message of realizing that mentorship comes in the moments that we need it most. And sometimes from those that love us, no matter how big or how bold or how much kicking in the butt we might need to go in the right direction. Thank you for sharing this amazing story. We're so inspired by all that you're doing through the art of mentorship and giving back to so many others in this time. And speaking of people that are giving back in this time, you may know our next amazing guest speaker. You may have seen him, in fact, on something called Shark Tank. He was, in fact, one of the original sharks here, the creator of the infomercial and as seen on TV. And he's joining us today with his own mentee and co-author, Mentor to Millions, Mark Tim. Please join me now in welcoming the amazing Kevin Harrington. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Can you see me now? Hey, it's great to be here. Hey, I'm excited. And I just want to say that we've all been through some very difficult times, and we're going to talk a little bit about what to do during tough times. COVID has required many companies to make a pivot, and I've pivoted in a number of the ventures that I'm involved with. As a shark from Shark Tank, I invested in a lot of companies, and actually prior to Shark Tank, I was doing the same thing. So I've got dozens of ventures that I'm involved with, and pivoting has been important. So thanks for having us here today. Mark, Tim, and I wrote a book called Mentor to Millions. He's going to tell the story about how we got together and how we met. And Mark, I'll turn it over to you, and let's have some fun here.
Yeah, let's have some fun. The book is called Mentor to Millions, but the millions is not money. The millions is millions of people impacted. And so there's one thing that Kevin and I have learned, and I learned from him, is that if you've got a product, purpose, or passion, and my guess is all of you do, the quickest way to get that to the world is through mentorship. Now, this book wouldn't have even happened in Kevin and I's life. In fact, our mentor, and Kevin had Zig as a mentor to me, but we knew the Ziglers and needed Kevin. And then ultimately, as a Kevin to be my mentor, and I went to him, and I will be your best student. And that was the best mentorship pitch he'd heard. And he's
Mark, I'm having a hard time hearing you, Mark. Are you back live now, Mark? We're having a hard time.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a little bit of distortion here, Mark. I'm gonna pick up and take over for a second. I think what Mark has basically been talking about here we are, Mark and I, in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We're in front of 3,000 people there. And Mark and I met through our mutual mentor, Zig Ziglar. And of course, when Zig passed away, the family put us together, and I started mentoring Mark, and Mark was my mentee, and we started doing some travels, and there we are in Brazil. But I think the first step of looking for a mentor is raise your hand and say, I need some help. I need a mentor. And so for many of us that were just experiencing this massive challenge when COVID first hit, stores are closing and flights are closing, hotels, everything was in turmoil, that raise your hand is the first step. Say, please, I need a mentor. Now, in my world, I say you can raise your hand to folks that are in your inner circle. One of the things I've said is I look actually at my checkbook to see, who do I write checks to? I have accountants and lawyers and media companies, and in the different businesses I'm in, I'm writing a lot of checks on a daily basis. And so when I reached out to my accountants, I said, I want to grow my business. I want to 10x the size of my business. I need help. I need some financial mentors. Well, boy, were they very excited about helping me and getting me some good folks. So from accounting to legal to all the different connections, step one, raise your hand. But I also say, go to the chambers of commerce, go out to join networking groups. Tomorrow is a quarterly event that I attend called Board of Advisors. There's hundreds of members of the Board of Advisors, and there will be many of them present in person, socially distanced tomorrow in Sarasota at the Westin Hotel, but many of them will be online also. But when you join the Board of Advisors, you get a team of advisors to help you through your challenges. So this is step one, raise your hand. Mark, I don't know if your internet's working better, but
can you hear me now, Kevin? Can you hear me better?
Yes, I can.
All right, so step two, after you've got the right mentor, is you have to implement your mentor's advice. And in my world, that means you become their best student. You don't wait till the next time you see them to get started. You get started right away. And so if you've got a mentor like Kevin Harrington, you don't want to mess around. You take that wisdom and that advice and you implement it right now. In fact, Kevin wrote a book called Act Now. He means it. The best time to act is right now. So you implement that mentor's advice. That's step number two. And step number three, Kevin.
Step number three, pay it forward. This is important because as Zig Ziglar mentored me, what do I turn around and do? I mentor Mark. Now, Mark is mentoring many folks also, and this is what is necessary during the difficult times we're in. I say it's probably a good idea to do it at all times, paying it forward. And for me, I've been an entrepreneur for about 40 years. And I'll never forget when I was sitting 33 years ago in a meeting with Michael Dell and Ted Leonsis, one of the top guys at AOL, Vern Harnish. We were young entrepreneurs, and we said, how can we help this young entrepreneurial community? And we got together and wanted to pay it forward by creating an organization. And today it's called EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, the world's largest organization for entrepreneurs in the world. So again, joining these groups and networks and organizations like the EOs of the world, this is what happened for me in 1987, 33 years ago. I said, as part of being a member of EO, we're in 50 countries, 150 cities around the world's largest nonprofit entrepreneurial organization. And every single month, I'm getting contacted to help somebody in different parts of the world does EO is in Australia and Asia and Latin America and the Middle East and Europe and North America, et cetera. And it's a global organization. So I think the power of being a good mentee, as Mark said, is being able to become that mentor and pay it forward. Back to you, Mark.
So you get the right mentor, you become their best student, and then you teach other people what you've learned, and you are well on your way to impacting millions. And that's a lot of what we talk about on Mentor to Millions. But Kevin, I have to tell you, I just finished another podcast where it was just me on there. And they asked me, what was the biggest takeaway that you had from your time with Kevin that has helped you scale your business? Because I learned a lot from Kevin, but we talk about it in the book. It's my favorite chapter. It's the biggest lesson. And so I'm going to set you up right here because you're with me, my mentor. And I talked about the dream team. So would you take what time we have left to teach everybody listening here about what you mean by you must have a dream team to build and scale your business?
Sure. So I'll never forget one of the segments on Shark Tank. O'Leary and I are going at each other, and wants to invest in this deal. And he's like, I'm betting on the jockey. And I said, hey, that's great for you, Mr. Wonderful. I said, I don't bet on the jockey. I've been burned too many times before, because if the jockey is really good at one thing, marketing, well, what are they? How are they going to be at operations and finance and digital marketing and all the other things necessary? I said, when it comes to horse racing, I've got an investment in that world too. If you talk to trainers, they're going to tell you when that horse shows up at the race, you can put any jockey on that horse because they've put that horse into the condition to run the race at the maximum capacity from a medical and a training standpoint. So similar in business, the jockey may be very good at certain things, but what about all the other things you need to run that business? So I say assemble a dream team. I don't mean just go hire high-priced employees. When I was building one of my first businesses back in the early 90s, I needed capital to build this business. And I went to 5 banks and I got turned down by 5 banks. Finally, when I embraced the dream team concept, because I realized, wait a minute, I don't know how to raise capital. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. And I went out, I got a finance mentor. He was a retired bank president. He raised me $3 million from a bank that had turned me down, and we 10x'd the business in the years to come. So this is the power of assembling a dream team. And everything I just told you that this gentleman did for me did not cost me one dime. He said, I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get that money. You deserve it. You've got a great business, but you don't know how to talk to the banks. So all of that was a gift as a mentor to me. And then he said, and if you want to talk afterwards about me helping you in a long-term fashion, we can do that. And certainly there are long-term relationships between mentors and mentees that might involve a business and a financial one also. So, I mean, the bottom line is this. When you're starting a business, if it's your first business, I recommend really getting a powerful mentor in to help you, because they've been there, they've done that. I've dealt with many merchant accounts over the years and ups and downs of having them, losing them, how to keep them. It's a brutal world out there. Make sure that you protect yourself, get that dream team, and get those folks in there that can surround you with the right kind of people and make your business powerful. Mark, you have any last words?
Only last words are, we turned in the manuscript of this book way before COVID, way before quarantine. And we wanted to make sure everybody knew that the fastest way to impact the world is through mentorship. It's the one secret that super successful people have, is they all had mentors. Kevin had mentors. I had mentors. You need mentors. We were not put on this earth to be alone. We're supposed to do this together. And I don't believe there's ever been a time in modern history where people were more willing to help each other. So raise your hand, get the right mentor, be the best student, and then teach other people. And if you'll go to kevinmentor.com, you can get our book anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, doesn't matter. Go to kevinmentor.com, show us you bought it. Kevin and I will give you 30 days of free mentorship. So you'll watch videos, you'll see us teaching lessons that we've learned, etc. We'd love to have you as part of the Mentor to Millions community.
Absolutely amazing. Kevin, Mark, thank you for inspiring in this moment, for helping us be bold, dreaming big, and going to get that amazing team who's going to help us achieve the impossible. Really inspiring. And guys, thank you so much for sharing today. You know,
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. As you heard from Kevin and Mark, paying it forward and being a big part of the commitment to changing industry for the betterment of lives everywhere is part of what mentorship really facilitates. Along those lines, I couldn't be more inspired to share our next amazing speaker with you. He's coming actually live kind of today from the UK, and you may have actually heard of him. Mark Mercuriadis is the founder and CEO of Hypnosis Sound Fund. Now, Hypnosis is a London Stock Exchange listed company, which since floating in 2018 has raised just a little over £1 billion. Nothing to sneeze at by any means. It's bought music catalogs that have included amazing songs by Ed Sheeran, Beyonce, Blondie, Mark Ronson, Barry Manilow, Bon Jovi, The Chainsmokers, Justin Bieber, Rihanna, The Eurythmics, and so many more. And investors have benefited from all the ways that songs have generated income, from streaming through to appearing in advertisements, movies, TV shows, and games. Mark is actually the former manager of globally successful recording artists such as Elton John, Guns N' Roses, Morrissey, Iron Maiden, Beyonce, and current manager of Nile Rodgers, who sits on the advisory board for Hypnosis. And by working next to inspiring talent such as this, it's how Mark now shares his perspectives with us on how much mentorship, relationships, and principles have driven him to this amazing place of success in his life. Mark, over to you.
On the one hand, you've got mentorship, right? On the other hand, you've got various avenues of education, right? So, you've got, high school, you've got university, colleges, specialist schools, etc. But what the music business really thrives on, or at least the classic music business really thrives on, is apprenticeship, right? Because, so much of what we do is not something that you can be taught in the classroom. It's something that, you have to learn the hard way by, encountering the various situations, because, ultimately it's the creative process, right? And the creative process is, when you're not a creator like I am, I can't play the guitar, I can't sing a song, but yet I can get the best out of people. And I've learned how to get the best out of people because I've dealt with so many geniuses, whether it's Axl Rose, whether it's Elton John, whether it's Nile Rodgers, whether it's Beyonce. I've been blessed to be surrounded by geniuses and to see the way that they react to situations. In many ways, I suppose, I've become a sort of horse whisperer for people that create. But the key element that I bring to that is that I listen. Now, on the one hand, it's obvious that I listen to the music, but on the other hand, what's not so obvious is that what I'm really doing is listening and watching these people at, sometimes right under the nose and sometimes at a distance, so I can see what it is that works for them and what it is that doesn't work for them. Because my job is to create an environment where these people can be confident in and they can do their very, very best work without roadblocks or anything else. Because, for most people, God has given them this level of talent because he's left something else in their life imperfect, let's say, right? So you've got to be cognizant of, and each person is different. You've got to be cognizant of what it is that allows them to be confident and to deliver their best work. For me, mentorship is one where, on the one hand, I'm looking to mentor people, but on the other hand, what I'm also looking for is to teach them this business, because this business has a very, very bright future in front of it. Thanks to streaming, I can actually look someone in the eyes and say, actually, the best days of the music business are in front of you. They're not in front of me. I've already had my time. And while I still have some time left, that's all well and great. But the real glory days of this business, which only a few short years ago would have appeared to be part of my lifetime, are actually going to be a part of this 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old person's lifetime. So, on the one hand, mentorship, what's that about? It's about, expressing values to somebody. It's about, downloading experiences on them that hopefully will allow them to have shortcuts and accelerate their growth and success. But I also think, on the other hand, what you really want to do, and it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or someone like myself in music, is you want to find somebody to mentor that has similar interests or that wants to follow a career path that's similar to yours, so that hopefully you can be also apprenticing them at the same time. So not only are you, expressing values and expressing common sense and other things that, as I say, can accelerate a person's growth, but hopefully you're also able to teach them something about the trade that they want to be in, so that they can follow in your path. Because nothing could make me prouder than to know that I'm taking my knowledge. I believe in a metaphysical, spiritual way. I believe that the world is always expanding, right? But, at the end of the day, when you distill that hopefully means that, instead of the next person having to start at A and go to B, they can start at J and, go to K, L, M, N, and O, right? The people that have been mentors in my life, and I was just praising many of them the other day. I've had numerous mentors. First person that comes to mind is a gentleman that's sadly no longer with us, called Elliot Roberts, who was Neil Young's manager for almost 60 years before he passed away 18 months ago. And Elliot was a guy that as I was growing up, I was very clear. There was a voice in my ear, whether you look at that as instinct or intuition or the voice of God, that was very clear with me that I was never going to be Jimmy Page or Robert Plant or Neil Young, but that I could be in music. But if I wanted to be in music, I would have to find a path that was not the performing path or the creative path, but someone that supported those people. And the first person that I discovered through my love of Neil Young and Joni Mitchell was this guy, Elliot Roberts, who was the most extraordinary manager, who managed Joni Mitchell, who managed Neil Young, who managed Bob Dylan, who managed Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and the three guys as individuals, and everyone from Devo to the Cars. And he became a great friend of mine, and he became a mentor, and he just taught me a lot. And in many ways, the most important thing that he taught me was to enjoy every minute of what you do. You're not digging ditches. You're part of music. There's all these beautiful people. There's, so much that's going on. Enjoy every minute of it, and make sure that, the people that you're turning on are people that can then enjoy every minute of what they're doing as well. And then there was a guy called Bruce Finley that managed Simple Minds, that were, probably the first big artists that I was personally a part of. And Bruce was the guy that, he never distilled it in his words. These are my words. But, my job is to make people believe in what I believe in. And because it's an integrity-based system, in order to, for me to have a career, I can only make people believe in the things that I genuinely believe in. Because if I tell you that something is the best thing since sliced bread, then it better be the best thing since sliced bread, because otherwise the next time I come along and tell you this is the best thing since sliced bread, you're just going to shut the door on me, right? So, Bruce was the first guy that I ever saw in real time make people believe in what he was believing in. He would tell stories about Simple Minds, and he would, gather the record company around and the promotion people and the sales people, and he would make them want to work as hard for the band as he worked for the band. I was one of the people that he weaved that magic on. And hopefully I've been weaving that same magic on people, for every day of the last 35 years or so as a result. And he's an important part of that. And then, there would be two guys, Rod Smallwood and Andy Taylor, that were guys that managed Iron Maiden and that I managed Iron Maiden with and became my partners. And the only thing that they both had in common with each other, besides being best friends, was that they could drink anyone under the table. But even then, one of them would drink like crazy and couldn't remember a thing the next morning, and the other one would drink like crazy and could remember the finest points of an 85-page contract. And I sort of became the bastard offspring of the two of these guys, where on the one hand, I understood creativity, and on the other hand, I understood business, and could bring those two things together in a way that would allow me to, understand and protect the art of these great artists that I work with. And on the other hand, maximize the commerce while ensuring that art was protected. And then the final two people that I would mention would be Elton John and Nile Rodgers, who are two of the greatest artists that I've ever worked with, because our relationships were completely based, and are still completely based, on an enthusiasm for music, right? Have you heard this? No, I haven't heard that. What about this? Have you heard that? Have you seen what's gone into the charts? And, Niall and I will every morning, our days start with talking about music, and every day our days end with talking about music. And that just makes, for incredible joy, and it makes me work harder. It makes him work harder. And, my life is blessed to be surrounded by these geniuses.
From great joy and great opportunity, mentorship can often be born. We're so inspired by Mark's words of wisdom today and all that he's done out there to encourage and foster a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And who knows, industries expand all the time, as we're seeing inspiringly from the music industry right now. And speaking of inspiring, it is my absolute joy now to introduce another amazing speaker and supporter of this movement to millions, and that is Alexandria Butler. Alexandria is the founder of Sister Circle and Black Women in Tech. She's affectionately known as Lexi B, an entrepreneur, a speaker, an editor, and a writer. She was raised in St. Louis, Missouri, and lives in Silicon Valley. Graduated from Stanford University in 2011 with majors in communication and Spanish. And after informally documenting her escapades as a young professional, Lexi B founded Grown Up Truth to discuss the professional and personal experiences of millennials. And here to inspire us now with what mentorship has meant in her life and an opportunity for all of us to contribute and participate in this movement. Lexi B, over to you.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this beautiful and magical, yet very polarizing world right now. Thank you so much for being with me. I think mentorship, like all of our wonderful speakers who I've been listening to, who are phenomenal and inspiring me as well, is the basis of where I am. Because of them, I am. And as this thing loads, we're just going to go ahead and get started. So my journey as a tech professional, I've worked at companies like NetApp, Facebook, Airbnb, and I'm currently at Twitter working in privacy, is solely based on this idea that I never saw myself. Not only in the physical sense as a black woman, as a dark-skinned woman in the technology industry, there just weren't people like me in the hallway, but also in just how in which I wanted to do work. And through mentorship, what I have learned, the biggest thing that I have learned is that it is okay not to have mentors that do exactly what you do and how you want to do it. Let's try to share this again. Because the most important thing is that you have mentors that are growing you and showing you how to have the best aspects of yourself in your work. I never saw someone like me at my job. I never saw someone who wanted to mix freedom fighting, as I call it, and equity with non-diversity and inclusion tactics. I never saw someone who spoke so candidly about who they were and their authenticity and why that drives them and moves them forward. And to be very honest with you, it has been a very rare case for me to have mentors in my 20s and 30s that have this one-to-one connection of who I am. And so the most important thing about mentorship is, here we go. I think I got it to work, is understanding that it is totally okay to have many, many, many mentors who give you different aspects of what you need. And I think it's important to find those people and learn from the greats and learn from people that can help you navigate all of those spaces, but may not necessarily be the copycat of what you want to be. And so I always think about as mentor as the mothership to your success. So we could talk about this for hours and for days, but here are the two key things that I want you to take away from this. As Nikki Giovanni, who's a very famous poet, once said, the unwillingness to try is worse than any failure you will ever have. So the first step is for you to ask the question. I've seen so many people in their careers, in their entrepreneurial endeavors, who try to build things and never just ask for help or ask for feedback. And your unwillingness to try and possibly fail in that trying and get back up is worse than anything you could ever do, because not all of us have the answer. When I think about my career and I think about what drives me, what fuels me and my superpowers, I am very aware that I come with a certain set of superpowers, but it is my dream team, as I know somebody said earlier, I like to call it my tribe, that bring the subject matter expertise that I don't have. One of my superpowers is that I am so good at outsourcing. And how I define that is that I am aware of what I'm good at, and I'm aware of what I'm not good at. And the things that I'm not good at, I specifically try to find people that can be part of my club and part of my tribe, my dream company. Some people call it their own personal board of directors, to fit that void, because I just don't have it. And I'm okay with not having it. That's totally cool. Your mentor should act in 3 stages: your consultant, your counselor, and your cheerleader. Some mentors there are specifically there just to consult. You ask them some questions, they give you some fireside answers, and you're good to go. And some of them are actually counselors. They're there to nurture you. They're there to be the ones that are going to lift you up when you need it. They're the ones to give you that hard love when you need it. One of my closest mentors of mine, she only comes around to tell me when I've done something wrong. And some people might think that's really cruel, but the reason why we're so close is I personally feel like she's the one who is driving me towards success. And the highlight is that she doesn't look like me. We come from 2 very opposite worlds, but she brings this understanding of the world and her own privilege and her own authenticity, and she challenges it with mine. And what happens when those things challenge each other, something very beautiful comes from that. It allows me to grow in my industry. It allows me to create more things for my community. In 2017, she was the one who actually encouraged me to go find more Black women in the tech industry to network with. It was something that I did not have. And I told her, in order to really build my career, I need some people in my line of work that look like me, because they can understand the nuances of all of these things coming at me at the same time. Through a conversation with her, I then determined to start an organization called Sister Circle Black Women in Tech, which now 3 years later serves over 7,100 women around the world. And we partner with tech and non-tech companies to give these women resources and access to conversations that generally marginalized people don't have. It is a fellowship community for people who look like each other to find mentorship and find the need, the counselor, the consultant, the cheerleader to continue. It's beautiful. And it has become, in my opinion, one of my life's work. And then finally, you need your cheerleader. Your cheerleader mentor, as I notoriously call them, is the person that cheers you on. There's something very impactful about being an entrepreneur and just having someone to say, you can do it. And I know that sounds very elementary. I know it sounds very cheesy, but there is something impactful to have someone say, you can do it. In every single presentation this morning or this afternoon, based on where you're at, I have heard stories of people literally saying, this is the person who told me that I could do it. They may not have known how I could do it. They may not have been able to help me figure out how to do it, but they told me I could do it. And you need that in your life. And so as you think about mentorship for your entrepreneurial endeavors, do understand that, one, you do not need just one mentor. As a matter of fact, having only one mentor stifles your growth. You need many, many mentors that fit these gaps that you have in your life and in your professional world. And sometimes that mentor is literally there just to be the cheerleader, the person you can call on to say, you got this. I don't know what it is you got, but you got it. Or sometimes you have the person that is the connector that says, this is an interesting problem. I know this person. Let's contact this person to help you out with that. You have the counselor that can sit with you, who understands all the stuff that's on your plate right now and say, okay, how do we prioritize? And then you may have the consultant who is there to actually help you on ground. All of these characters are necessary for you to be the entrepreneur that, first and foremost, you deserve to be. And secondly, that you have the potential to be. In closing, I would like to add this quote that I always tell folks, which is, learn how to learn. When you look at some of the most successful people around the world, entrepreneurs or not, right? The people who have figured out how to be the height of their craft, the one thing that they have in common is they have the ability to learn. They have the ability to receive feedback and not get upset about that feedback. And if they agree to the feedback, implement it smoothly and quickly. And it's interesting how mentor relationships work. I am not only a mentor to people, but I'm also a mentee. And I tell people that the mentors that get the most, my mentees that receive the most of my attention are the ones that I can literally see the active shift in what they're doing after I talk to them, because they're learning how to learn. They may not get it all the time. It may not be 100% accurate all the time, but they're learning how to learn something so simple, but yet so deep. And a lot of people do not have this skill, especially in entrepreneurship. If you can really hound on this idea that you are learning as you go, which means that you need to find other professors, other teachers that can help you be better at this skill. That's how you grow and prosper. Michael Jordan famously said that everybody used to glorify him on the court after he won a game, and he was one of the only people the day after the game, looking at the footage of the game with his physical trainer, with his coach, and also trying to make the other Bulls players watch it too, to find the areas in which they were wrong, even though they won the game. Because to him, in order for him to be even better, even after a blowout win, he had to continue learning how to learn. Now, if Michael Jordan, at the top of his game, arguably the best basketball player of all time and one of the best athletes of all time, was still learning how to learn with multiple championships under his belt, then what makes us not want to learn how to learn? And it's something so simple yet so profound. That to me is what separates the people who literally make it and the people who don't. But how do you learn how to learn? By finding the mentors who become your professors and your coaches and your teachers and your cheerleaders to teach you and to get there. In closing, this is who I am. I would love to connect with all of you. I know that we don't have a lot of time today, but remember, your unwillingness to try is your ultimate failure. And to continue to learn how to learn through mentorship, and not just one mentor, but multiple, the people that see your potential and see your light, even when you don't see it. Thank you.
Alexandria, to say that we learned so much by your story today is putting it mildly. I could not have asked for a better setup when it comes to sort of sharing an inspiration on this movement in this time. As all of you may know, our act here in bringing about 1 million hours of mentorship is to do just what Lexi B inspired us to contribute, because it lets us learn and it lets us give in incremental ways right now. It isn't about just being one mentor to one business, but about unlocking that intellectual capital that lives inside all of us because of the betterment of what it can bring in this time. Lexi B, thank you so much for those words. Now, as we move from a story of inspiration like that, we have another one to inspire you with today. And it comes to us live from an amazing friend of the centers and a longtime recognized supporter, almost a Jill of all trades, if you will. Dr. Laura Jana is the author of The Tabula Brain. She's a US-based pediatrician, an award-winning author, and a social entrepreneur. She finds connections across disciplines and crystallizes big ideas into far-reaching and real-world applications. She's currently an associate research professor at Penn State University's Prevention Research Center and has over 20 years of experience navigating the traditionally siloed worlds of medicine, business, education, academia, and media. She's focused on fostering cross-sector innovation, and her work has been featured everywhere, from national presenting magazines, CNN, The Today Show, and in the US Chamber of Commerce and the World Bank. Her most recent book, The Tabula Brain, Nurturing the Skills Today That Will Shape Your Child Tomorrow, lays out the compelling business case for investing in human capital and the cultivation of our 21st century skills for success starting in early childhood. You're in for a great treat now as we hear from Dr. Laura. Over to you.
Thank you, Nicola. And I am honored to join the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, MentorCloud, and all of you in celebration of the launch of a very valuable movement. And that's because, like all of you, I firmly believe in the power of mentorship. In this belief, I am most certainly not alone, as you've already heard today. According to Forbes, when it comes to the essential elements of business success, studies show that good mentoring can lead to greater career success, promotions, raises, increased opportunities. And similarly, organizations that embrace mentoring are rewarded with higher levels of employee engagement, retention, and knowledge sharing. It's no wonder that 7 out of 10 Fortune 500 companies are reportedly buying into the value of mentorship. All of that's compelling in an admittedly academic sort of way, but it doesn't quite explain why exactly mentoring stands to be such a valuable contributor to entrepreneurial success. nor does it explain how it is that I, as a pediatrician focused on early brain and child development, best known for authoring parenting books and committed to maximizing the potential of all children, especially those born into poverty and facing adversity, ended up here today speaking with all of you about mentoring. Allow me to connect these dots as I share with you perhaps a bit different and hopefully all the more compelling perspective on the power of mentorship, one that is deeply rooted in early brain and child development, and I therefore suggest human nature. A typical definition for mentoring goes something like this: a supportive learning relationship between a caring individual who shares knowledge, experience, and wisdom with another individual who is ready and willing to benefit from this exchange to enrich their professional journey. I would like to suggest to you that in focusing on this representative definition of mentoring, we focus on two key elements. One, relationships, the importance of which has clearly risen to the top of everyone's consciousness, not only in the business world, but across all sectors. And two, on the role of a caring, responsive adult. Now, I feel it worth taking a moment to assure you that I am quite aware that my proposed use of the term caring, responsive adult in describing a professional business relationship might raise a few eyebrows, especially from those of you who are right now thinking to yourselves that such a description might all too easily be misinterpreted and potentially earn you a visit from HR. I also realize that it stands to make it all the more clear that the language of business is not, in fact, my native language. But I can assure you my wording is intentional, and as you will soon see. The mentoring movement being launched today is based on a shared understanding that when you become a mentor, you guide, inspire, advise, support, counsel, encourage, challenge, and empower the next generation of entrepreneurs to pursue their wildest dreams. Now consider this exact same statement, but with only two words changed. When you become a parent, you guide, inspire, advise, support, counsel, encourage, challenge, and empower the next generation to pursue their wildest dreams. By simply changing the word mentor to parent and shifting focus from next generation entrepreneurs to the next generation of children, the fundamental relationship nevertheless remains the same. In fact, I would like to propose that the reason why mentoring is so valuable to entrepreneurial success is, in large part, because it represents the business application of the critical role that a caring, responsive adult plays in human development, a relationship that not only crosses sectors, but dates all the way back to the day we are born and down to the level of how our brains are wired to interact and succeed in the world around us. In my first TED Talk, I referenced this look back to early childhood as a challenge of connecting the boardroom to the playroom. I realized then, as I do now, that asking you to work backwards and draw any sort of direct connection between, say, workforce development and preschool play is kind of like asking you to recite the alphabet backwards. But with a few new insights, working one's way back to the foundational ABCs of entrepreneurial skill building and career success actually becomes surprisingly easy. Let's start by dropping down to the level of brain cells or neurons. Babies are born with about 100 billion neurons, even more, I'm told, than the number of dollars going into SPACs these days, for those of you who are out in the Bay Area. These neurons connect at a mind-expanding rate of up to 1 million new neural connections per second. The result is that 85% of brain growth is thought to occur in the first 3 years. And while this rate of growth is impressive, enough to rival an entrepreneurial venture on the order of Slack, it's not simply a matter of he or she with the most connections who wins. In fact, while the number of connections or synapses increases significantly from birth to 2 years, after that, we start to see a thinning out or pruning of neural connections based on whether or not they're being used. Those that are used are strengthened. Those that aren't are pruned away. So the real question becomes, how do we strengthen the right connections? And here's where I hope you'll start to see the connection. We now know that neurons don't just connect and babies don't just learn what they need to know all on their own. with respect to the wiring of babies' brains. Unlocking children's early learning potential and strengthening these connections is deeply dependent on engaged social interaction. In other words, it is now clear that experience shapes brain architecture and that caring, responsive adults play the critical role of chief architect. And that brings us right back to where we started, to the foundational importance of a caring, responsive adult. The following is a quote from Harvard Center on the Developing Child. Because responsive relationships are both expected and essential, their absence poses a serious threat to a child's development and well-being. Healthy brain architecture depends on a sturdy foundation built by stable, responsive relationships with caring adults. Allow me to repeat that, but again, as before, with my having only changed 2 words. Because responsive relationships are both expected and essential, their absence poses a serious threat to an entrepreneur's development and well-being. Healthy brain architecture depends on a sturdy foundation built by stable, responsive, mentoring relationships with caring adults. Even more succinctly, the Harvard Center concludes, starting at birth and continuing throughout life, our ability to thrive is affected by our ongoing relationships and experiences and the degree to which they are healthy, supportive, and responsive. Having thus spent the past several years making the case for early investments in human capital on stages around the world, I now want to close with a summary call to action. Knowing what we now know about human nature, based on the science of early brain and child development, and all we know about the crucial role that foundational relationships stand to play, it is incumbent upon all of us, now more than ever, to ensure that all children, and similarly, all entrepreneurs, have access to caring, responsive adults. I believe that it is through strategic early investments and the cultivation of foundational relationships that we will be better able to achieve what I hope is our ultimate shared big picture goal, making sure that everyone, children and entrepreneurs alike, have equal access to a world of possibilities. And with that, I welcome all of you to join the Mentor Makers movement and help us spread the word. Thank you.
Laura, thank you so much. As everyone here can attest, it is so critical that we understand this message now than ever. All of us are struggling with raising littles at home or being around people who are trying to do their best to hold their head up high. And at the end of the day, holding our head up high can often come by just being that responsive, caring adult in the moments of need, in the moments of opportunity, and in the moments of inspiration. Thanks for allowing us to share in this journey and learn from you today. Now, speaking of learning from amazing women and amazing moms as well, it is my absolute pleasure now to introduce you to Erica Brodnick, co-founder and head of research at Extend Ventures. Erica is a research fellow at King's College in London, Sky News resident parenting expert, and an amazing philanthropist. Her expertise is in the education sector, where she's recognized as a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, having founded several software companies, and she also sits on the board of the Good Play Guide. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to Erica for our next moment of inspiration, coming to us live on Mentor Makers today. Erica, over to you.
Thank you, Nicola. Thanks for such a beautiful introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to join you all today. I'm just going to share my screen here because I'm going to speak to you about the power of mentoring in my life and for my business, Charisma Kids. Charisma Kids was the first business I'd ever founded. I did so in 2012, and I founded this company because as a mum of 5 children, I was quite concerned about the fact that my children were playing on their computers and devices a lot more, and I didn't feel as though what they were playing with was going to be long-term beneficial for them, and I wanted to create something that would enable them to learn new skills at the same time. So I created Charisma Kids, which ended up growing into a mobile platform that helped children between the ages of 3 and 8 to develop emotional intelligence skills through play. It also enabled parents to set tasks and missions for their children so that children were able to effectively balance the time that they spent on and offline. So I wanted to talk about the fact that without a mentor and the power of a mentor behind me, Charisma Kids would never have grown into to what it eventually did. And so my journey first began with a website over in the UK called mentorsme.co.uk. On that site, I found a guy called Rupert Findlay, and Rupert actually ended up becoming one of the non-executive directors at Charisma Kids. He'd already grown a children's brand, and he was willing to spend time with me once every week or so to tell me pieces of information that he felt I should know, and support me in growing the business from my kitchen table into what could be considered a household name. So I didn't just have Rupert on my side. I joined a group called Open Coffee. It was a meetup.com group, but what it meant was that I was able to ask a plethora of people questions about my startup, and to understand from their perspectives, having done it before, what it was that I should be doing and the journey that I should be going on. Well, they advised me to go to the toy fair one January, and in January 2013, off I went to the toy fair, and I met another mentor who indeed ended up becoming a co-founder at Charisma Kids. She is the founder of the Good Toy Guide, whom I'm now non-exec director for as well. Together we went off to launch 48 and did a hackathon, and then had the first beginnings of what would become Charisma Kids. We learned tools such as business model canvas and various ways of ideating and developing the business from the ground up. The biggest thing that happened for me, though, was that mentor in Dr. Amanda Gummer was able to turn around, and as I say, she joined as a co-founder and then opened the door to our first big deal. Back in 2014, when we launched, we did so preloaded to just under 2 million children's devices, and that really did turn Charisma Kids into, as I say, somewhat of a household name over here in the UK, as opposed to being a business that was founded by an underrepresented founder from an underrepresented background, etc., etc. So the power of mentoring and the doors that they open, or that they can open if they're a great mentor, really are phenomenal. The next step for me was Dragon's Den, and I went onto the show, which is the UK equivalent of your Shark Tank. I didn't find any mentors there and didn't get investment. However, undeterred, and with the 2 mentors that I'd collected behind me, and now actively working within the company, we went to Wyra, which is the startup accelerator of Telefonica over here in the UK. And they had combined with the Cabinet Office and decided that they were going to be investing in businesses that had social impact at the time. We were able to secure all of the money that we'd requested from the Dragons in the Wyra Accelerator program, and we did so for 5% of the company rather than the 40% that I had been offering the Dragons. So it really did work out well in the end. And I think that as much as mentoring is key, and speaking to people who have been there and done it before is imperative for starting and growing an entrepreneurial endeavor, I can't underestimate or underemphasize the importance of investing in education and reading from those people who have been able to kind of publish books. For instance, we launched Charisma Kids as an embarrassing MVP, but we did so on a very large scale. However, having kind of really started to look at our product development cycles and roadmaps and learning along the way, we were able to refine and grow the product. We went through various sources of education, and then ended up preloading with Telefonica, and then indeed Nextway, which saw Charisma Kids grow from being preloaded to just under 2 million devices to around 15 million devices. It's been a business that's taken me around the world and afforded me opportunities that somebody from my background ordinarily wouldn't have. And actually, the seed was sown from me having an idea and then going and finding somebody who was willing to give back and invest time in me in terms of making or helping me to bring that idea to life. And I guess what I'd like to share most importantly today is some of the lessons that have been learned along that journey. I've heard a hell of a lot of no's, and I've developed an incredibly thick skin as a female and indeed an ethnic minority. The no's have been far more frequent than the yeses. And I think that that's where the power of an incredible support team that includes mentors, but also includes friends and family that understand what you're trying to do, and why it is that that's so important to you, and how and their role in being supportive of you, and that network is important. Next is having a real sense of purpose and growing to understand the purpose that you hold in this life and why it is that you're here, which really does lead me on to the why. Why is it that you want to create something? Why is it that you want to mentor? When you understand the why, you're much more clearly able to articulate what it is that you want to achieve. When you're able to articulate what it is that you want to achieve, you're able to ask better questions. I read a book, and it was one of the most empowering books that I'd ever read, and it's by a lady called Lindsay Tye. It's Better People Ask Better Questions, and asking the question why of yourself, understanding the answer to that, and then being able to ask empowering questions to others in terms of them being aware of what it is that you need in order to help you, is the most powerful thing that you can do. I think that on many occasions, people are lucky to secure some incredible mentors, and then they don't use them to their full potential because of the fact that they don't really know why they have this mentor and what it is that that mentor is going to be able to do for them. So really understanding what it is that you want to get out of the relationship that you're building is key to making sure that you're able to make the best of it. The third key thing that I would say is that an understanding that there is no failure, only feedback is key to taking anything from step A to step Z, because of the fact that, as I say, you're going to need to learn to collect no's. So understanding that that no doesn't mean failure, and actually the way in which I've chosen to look at it is that for every no that I collect, it means that the probability of a yes coming along soon is increased. And if you start to kind of shape things and look at things in that way, it puts a different spin on the way in which you're able to deal with setbacks, because, you know, feedback is the breakfast of champions, and you're going to get feedback, and some of it's going to be a really greasy, stodgy fry up that actually isn't very good for you. And the question is do you allow, you know, do you ingest that and allow it to sit in your system, or do you get rid of it as quickly as possible and move on to something that is going to be much more enabling? and enable you to progress in the way that you want to progress. I know that for me, I decided that I would take the feedback that I got that wasn't positive, look for the learning within that feedback, apply the learning, and then move on. Kind of allowing it to wash off me rather than allowing it to kind of become part of me. And I think that that's super important, because not everybody's going to tell you what you want to hear. And I guess that really leaves me with the fact that mentoring has enabled me to grow Charisma Kids from something that started at my kitchen table to something that has been loved and used by more than 8 million children, and helped them to develop the emotional intelligence skills that they need to become the little superheroes that they really are. And if there's a superhero inside of them, it means there's a superhero inside of you too. So tap into that and go and be great. Thank you.
Erica, thank you so much. Absolutely inspiring. I think our breakfast of champions here today is the power that comes from mentorship being unlocked inside all of us. Thanks for sharing your story, for being bold, and for doing all that you are in the world. We are incredibly inspired to have you in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Now, next up, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome our partner and our co-host, Dr. Ravi Gundlapalli. Dr. Ravi is the founder and the CEO of MentorCloud. This is a cloud-based mentoring platform for people within enterprises, entrepreneurial networks, and professional associations to share and honestly learn from each other. Dr. Ravi is a globally recognized thought leader and speaker on the topics of mentoring and entrepreneurship. He is the author of The Art of Mentoring. And for his work and vision, Dr. Ravi has been featured in HBR, Forbes, Knowledge at Wharton, and also in 2 books. Prior to founding MentorCloud, Ravi led supply chain solutions for Boeing 787 Dreamliner, Raytheon, and Hitachi Global Storage. He actively mentors entrepreneurs and professionals globally, and he also serves as a mentor to the Founders Institute in Silicon Valley. Ravi's vision is to impact 100 million people with the power of mentorship, and we are so inspired to have him with us on this journey. Here to tell us more is Dr. Ravi Gundlapalli. Ravi, my friend, please, over to you.
Awesome. Nicola, thank you so much for that very generous introduction. Wow, just listening to Marcus and Kevin, my friend, Mark, Lexi, Laura, and Erica has been so inspiring for me, for someone who has made mentorship his life's mission. This is truly a dream come true to see this movement get kicked off today at a very important moment in our lifetime. You know, Janice Bryant Howroyd said, turn every important moments into movements. And I took that statement very seriously. And here we are launching the Mentor Makers movement to get 1 million mentoring hours for all the deserving entrepreneurs around the world. So this movement is really about access to human wisdom. Now, previous speakers have talked about how our mentors and their experiential knowledge, during their own business ventures or life is so valuable, but it is limitless in capacity, but heavily underutilized. Over the last few years, we have seen solutions where access to information is easy through search engines. Access to content has been made easy, but there has not been a global effort, a concerted global effort to make access to human wisdom easy. And that's where MentorCloud comes in. We said, let's find a way to get the collective wisdom of all the experts, business owners, corporate leaders, mothers, into a place that is easily accessible to those who are seeking it. And I've realized early on in my career that true wisdom gets activated only in conversations. So we said, let's connect people with wisdom and willing to share, to the people that are looking for that wisdom and are willing to learn. So you heard in my introduction that I have a background in supply chain. So this was a classic supply chain problem for me, connecting supply of wisdom with demand for wisdom. And that's what MentorCloud does. And the platform that all of you entrepreneurs and mentors who are going to sign up for this movement are going to experience that power of connection, and then being able to have intentional conversations about your startups, about your business ventures. Now, I named the company MentorCloud because cloud is a collection of water from multiple sources, and MentorCloud is like a collection of human wisdom. So the NEC Mentor Makers movement is really that accumulation of wisdom for all the corporate executives, successful entrepreneurs, and to make that available to all deserving entrepreneurs. Now, people asked me, why do we need mentors? Now, we heard from all the speakers up to now the importance of having mentors in our lives. But I have a more simple way to think about this. The question I would like all the entrepreneurs and every one of you, including mentors, to ask is, who is thinking about your success and your growth when you're sleeping? Because your body is growing, the world is moving on, but is your business moving on? Is your dream getting amplified and also being realized? So having mentors is actually being in the mind space of other good, successful human beings. And it costs nothing. All you have to do is inspire a handful of people to think about you and your success. This particular movement happened because of exactly one such instance when somebody thought, hey, Ravi and Nicola should connect and talk. And here we are, a few weeks later, starting the birth of a major movement to create a million mentoring hours for entrepreneurs. That's the power of having mentors, having ambassadors, having your well-wishers. And like Lexi said, sometimes all you need is, hey, I got you. I am there for you. I don't know what it is, but I am there for you. I think every speaker up to now, it's been so inspiring to hear Erica, Mark, and Marcus, and Kevin, everyone reiterate that point. So I encourage all of you to make mentorship a core aspect of your businesses. On the other side, if you look at why be a mentor? Now, we're all here for a very brief period on this planet. And we are here not to just consume and just leave, but to contribute, to make impact, and to leave a legacy that I told myself when I had two near-death experiences. So I consider this my third life. And I said, I want the world to miss me. And when there are enough people who have benefited from your wisdom, from your compassion, from your gratitude, and imagine those people missing you when you're no longer here on this planet. That's what legacy is all about. And being a mentor, makes that happen for you. And people ask me, Ravi, is it always the mentees that win? And I can tell you from my own experience, when I had the opportunity to mentor a visually challenged student a few years ago, that who eventually went on to graduate from MIT and now running a successful venture in India, he taught me the power of sight and vision. It's not enough to have eyesight. We all need to build a strong vision for our lives. And life is very fragile. And we all are experiencing it right now in this pandemic situation. So think big, have bigger dreams. And like Kevin said, in step number one, raise your hand, ask for help. This platform is exactly that. This movement is exactly that. Come on and tell us what venture you're working on and where you need help, because there are at least a million plus people out there who are willing to share their experience with you. Now, we also heard earlier that it's not enough just to listen to that wisdom. You need to take action. You need to trust in that wisdom and take action. Now, Erica also said, as an entrepreneur, we hear a lot of no's. And being in Silicon Valley, I have also been told that this won't work. Mentorship, you cannot make money. There's no real business here. But that's what happens. Investors, customers, they continue to say no to you. But the only people who will look at the bright side of your venture, the bright side of your character, the bright side of your perseverance and grit are those people we are calling mentors. So surrounding yourself with good people who are willing to see the strengths and find ways to amplify them and also giving you feedback so that you can continuously learn. Someone said also learn to learn. So by continuously learning, by having those cheerleaders in your in entrepreneurial ventures, that's how you achieve your big dreams. So I thank all the mentors who have come forward already and who are going to come forward, because our goal is to get 50,000 mentors into this movement. And thanks to all the entrepreneurs who have said no to a very comfortable jobs, but then decided to do something to create impact for themselves, for their communities, as well as for the world. It takes a lot. And I have defined entrepreneurship as antarprerana, which means an inner fire. So let that inner fire stay alive and surround yourself with the right kind of people who can amplify it. And that is how you can achieve your dreams, for which you are here in this world for a very brief amount of time. So really, I extend my thanks to all the speakers who have reiterated what I have believed in and made mentorship my life's mission. Thanks to Marcus, Kevin, Mark, Merck, Lexi, Laura, and Erika, who have reiterated the impact mentorship has had on them. And my huge thanks to the NEC team, the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, when this idea first came up, that they came up with such enthusiasm. Nicola, Selena, Brooke, Laurel, and the entire board of NEC. For a young tech company like MentorCloud to have the support of a movement, with the help of NEC is just incredible. It's because our intentions are clear. We want to impact people the right way, and now is the time to make human wisdom easily accessible to entrepreneurs so everyone can achieve their full God-given potential. So welcome you all to the Mentor Makers movement. It is truly a historic day on this National Mentor Day. And thank you all for taking the time. And I now have the unique privilege and honor indeed to give a warm welcome to Wintley Phipps, my dear friend, the founder and CEO of US Dream Academy. Mr. Wintley Phipps is a world-renowned vocal artist, a motivational speaker, and the founder and CEO of US Dream Academy. Now, I'm really honored that we'll be working with him as well to create a mentorship program for children of incarcerated parents. So Marcus, we should definitely talk. And Wintley has won multiple awards for his work. The Excellence in Mentoring for Program Leadership Award from Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnerships, the Oprah Winfrey Angel Network Award, Use Your Life Award, and Philanthropist of the Year Award from the National Center for Black Philanthropy. His performance of Amazing Grace has enjoyed over 7 million views, and he has a unique distinction to sing in the presence of many, many world leaders. So these are people like Barack Obama, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, Oprah Winfrey, and today he's going to sing for us after giving his inspiring words about wildest dreams. Thank you very much. Over to Wintley Phipps.
Hello, how are you all today? It's great to be on this amazing panel and this amazing program. First, I want to say thank you to Ravi for making this opportunity possible, and Nicola and all that, the team at Nasdaq. You guys are doing an incredible thing, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. One of my favorite stories is about a lady who was in the hospital not doing well, and her family was gathered around. It looked like she didn't have much longer, and the doctor was in there writing some charts, and as he was the family left, the doctor was still in the room, and that old lady got the eye of the doctor, and she motioned to him to come to the side, and she whispered to him, "Don't listen to anything they say. You give me all you got." And so for the next few moments, in just a few minutes, I'm going to give you I'm going to try to give you all I got. I want to ask and speak to you first about what is a mentor. There's so many definitions of what a mentor is, but I penned one last night that I want to share with you. I'm going to need these. A mentor is a person who fills your head and heart with guidance, wisdom, possibilities, and dreams. A mentor is a person who fills your head and heart with guidance, wisdom, possibilities, and dreams. A mentor is one who lives in your heart forever as a hero. And then I asked myself, what is virtual? Because we are in a time and space where so much of what we're doing, including mentoring, is going to be virtual. And I wanted to ask you, not just for today, but for the rest of your life, to broaden your definition and understanding of virtual. For me, before there was an internet, there were virtual relationships. Yes, the technology was only pen and paper, but a pen pal was a virtual relationship. And I want to share with you what I believe is a revolutionary thought. First of all, do not underestimate the impact of virtual relationships. As I must tell you, as a person of faith, the most powerful, impactful, and transformative relationship that I have today and that I have ever had has been virtual and is a virtual relationship. The most powerful, impactful, and transformative relationship I have is a virtual relationship where I almost have to close my eyes and imagine that this mentor that I cannot see, who I am transformed by, is there, is real, and speaks to me. Now, the truth of the matter is, that's not new either. I look back at my life when I was 14 and a half years old. I woke up one morning talking like this, and it shook up my father. If you can imagine your 14, 15-year-old kid saying, "Hey, Dad, how are you doing this morning?" And I'm a child of the 60s, so I wanted to be another Sly Stone. That was a mentoring relationship that was virtual for me. Yes, you probably don't know who Sly Stone is, but I met Sly, and he was Stone. And I said, no, something's wrong with this picture. In other words, I look back now, whether it's Dr. King that I just heard on a tape, and I purpose in my heart, that's the kind of person I want to be like when I grow up. I want to be a man who is true to his convictions and who's willing to die if need be for what he believes. Or whether it's a Winston Churchill. These are people who I've never met, but they have mentored me. Their influence mentored me, and yes, shaped me, and yes, transformed me. And then there were the mentors that I did meet. One day I was on an Amtrak train from Baltimore to Philadelphia. And on Amtrak, when you don't want somebody to sit next to you, you camp out and you put your papers and your food around you. You send the message, please find someplace else to sit. And this man had camped out and there were other seats available, but I looked into his eyes and he looked really low and discouraged. And I said to him, I walked up, I said, is anybody sitting next to you? He smiled, he said, no, and he pulled up his papers. That man's name was Chuck Colson of Watergate fame, who went to prison for the Watergate scandal and came out with a commitment to spend the rest of his life helping the prisoners and their families and their children. We became dear friends from that train ride. He began to take me to the prisons with him, and I would sing and he would speak. One prison I was singing in Florida, a young lady came up to me pregnant, about to have her baby in prison. She said, excuse me, sir. She said, your wife named Linda? I said, yeah. She said, that's my aunt. We didn't realize that my wife's brother's daughter was in prison about to give birth. But because of that mentoring relationship, over 20 years ago, I started the first charity of its kind that provides tutoring, mentoring, and character building to children whose parents are incarcerated. This man is no longer alive, Chuck Colson, but the work that he inspired and mentored me to start continues on in the lives of children. And that's the most exciting thing that I do in terms programmatically with my life, is to help these children whose parents are in prison. By the age of 30, 60% of all Black boys in America who don't graduate from high school will spend time in prison by the age of 30. And so we focus our help. And thank you, Nasdaq and Nicola and the others, for helping us shine a light on this very important group. And before I close, I will tell you this. Not only are these relationships powerful, remember, I'll come back to that, but let me say, sometimes you mentor a person not knowing who they will become or where they're going to go. 40 years ago, I was singing in Baltimore, Maryland. I came down off the platform, and by the way, if you go online, you'll see me put my name in YouTube. You'll see more stuff than you want to see. I was the first gospel artist on Soul Train. You'll see me with my big afro and bell-bottom pants, and then yes, an afro. But 40 years ago, I was singing in Baltimore, Maryland. I came down off the platform. I felt a tap on my shoulder. Young lady said, excuse me, sir, I just heard you sing, and I feel like I can talk to you. She said, do you have time to talk to me? I said, sure. She came by our home. We talked and prayed. I'm a person of faith. We prayed. And after praying with her, I said, before you go, I don't know why, but God has impressed me to tell you, he's going to bless you and give you an opportunity to speak to millions of people. She said, you really think God would do that for me? That young lady's name is Oprah Winfrey. And if you go online and you put my name in, and Oprah, she put up a video of the man who predicted her success on her program. We talked together on her Super Soul Sunday about that mentoring relationship and what I have been able to pour into her over all these 40 years later. You speak to people with respect when you don't know who they are, where they're going, what they can do for you one day. And look how many other people she has gone on to mentor. She's helped our organizations. I promise you this will be my last story, and then I've been asked to share a song. 2008 was a tough fundraising year, as it is. When you're in not-for-profit work, you learn how to beg with dignity, which is what I do all the time. And we have a fundraising dinner. We raise about $1 million at the dinner each year. 2008, economy collapsed. I set the goal to raise at 1.3 million. I needed a $500,000 miracle to get to my goal. I set the goal at 1.3. 7 days before the dinner, I had reached about 800,000. I needed a $500,000 miracle to get to my goal, and I'm praying. 2 days later, I got a call from Oprah Winfrey's assistant saying, Miss Winfrey just boarded her jet to go to South Africa to see her school for girls. And I sang and spoke at the opening of her school for girls there. And she left a FedEx package. She left a FedEx package to send to you. Where should I send it? I said, send it to the corporate office in Maryland. She said, well, there's a special way she wants you to open it. I said, well, send it to my home. I got home, my wife handed me this beautifully wrapped box, handwritten note from her, thanking me for my ministry in her life, my prophetic words of wisdom, my everlasting kindness. She was so generous in her words. And I saw an envelope. When I opened it up, she had put in a check for $1.2 million. And behind that envelope, I saw another envelope dated January 1, 2009. I opened it up. It had another check for $1.2 million. And behind that envelope was another envelope. I opened it up and it had another check for $1.3 million. She sent about $4 million in 3 envelopes. And then she called me from South Africa. Did you get it? I said, oh, thank you so much. And then she emailed me and she said, you know, I love giving and I love making it fun. She said, I considered sending you a FedEx envelope 3 days in succession. So Monday you get the first check, you know, and be surprised, Tuesday the second, Wednesday the third. She said, but I figured by the 4th day, you be chasing the FedEx man down. And that's why I sent them all together. This is from a lady who was making $25,000 a year when I met her. Mentoring, I don't underestimate the power of mentoring, and don't underestimate the power of virtual mentoring. Mentoring by people you may never meet, but have a transformative impact upon your life. And let me share this with you. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you never walk alone. You never walk alone. Walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll
Wintley, absolutely amazing. For the storm that has been 2020, we could not be more inspired by your message of hope, by the message that you have given to us today. Our hearts and our minds are so thankful with everything that you've given to us. And for all of us, may we lean into this new definition where our head and heart can offer guidance, wisdom, possibilities, and dreams for a better and brighter tomorrow that our entrepreneurs, our youth, our families make possible. We have the biggest vision ahead of us to unlock 1 million hours of mentorship for the businesses who bring so much vibrancy to our communities and to our world. We're not going to be able to do this alone. We need each and every one of you to lean in and to find a way to contribute in this cause. Please recognize the mentors in your life. Tag a mentor, make a call to action to join up and be a part of this movement. Our thanks, our deepest appreciation for all of you who are contributing so much to this cause. And now let's go find a way to bring forward 1 million hours of mentorship for all the businesses in this country and across the globe. Thank you for joining us. Have an amazing day, night, evening ahead. And you'll be hearing from us soon with a lot more events and a lot more opportunities to contribute. Goodbye, and my thanks to all our speakers and supporters today.